Good morning. I think we're live on Facebook. We'll just go ahead and double check that all's working well here. Perfect. Okay. If you're joining me live on Facebook, maybe go ahead and leave a thumbs up or a comment. Would love to see who all is here today. And just as a reminder, we broadcast this two different ways. So in our Zoom room, which is our private meeting room where you can join, I have Danny in our private meeting room in Zoom. And the benefit of joining us via Zoom is because afterwards you get to stay around and have some conversation, ask questions, and discuss the topic. So it's a great way to be able to have some interaction if you have questions on this topic or past topics. It's great time to be able to share those. So thanks for being here to everyone who's here. And our topic today is talking about the seasons of our lives. And as I was wondering and pondering, when I prepared the topic for the weekly chat, which by the way, we're not by the fireside today because my normal spot outside, it's very chilly in my part of the world now. And so I have to figure out a new fireside space. And actually, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be coming to you from the beach side instead of the fireside. And I have an exciting topic prepared for you then. I'll be doing a collaboration event with Leanne Memmer, who is just an awesome gal who really works with healing people. So, Leanne and I will be together um, in Playa del Carmen in 2 weeks, and we'll be sharing with you live. So stay tuned for that for sure. But because of the changing seasons, it got me to thinking about how we have so many different shifting seasons of our lives and how sometimes those seasons feel really good and sometimes those seasons can not feel so good. And even at times we can get stuck in one season of our life when we're kind of afraid to move on to the next season. So, those are all the things that we're going to talk about today. And really, ultimately, we're going to wind up with some strategy of how you can move gracefully through the seasons. Now, when I talk about seasons, I'm curious, like, what do you think of when I talk about seasons of our lives? Because we can be in several different seasons in different points in our life. So, kind of when I think about myself right now, I think about my business. Just a few months ago, I really transitioned from full-time corporate world into developing my business. So, in my business building, I'm kind of in the springtime of that business building, planting a lot of seeds, reaching out, growing. But in the other areas of my life, so in, let's say my family, my child rearing, my youngest is 16 now. She's a junior in high school. So I'm kind of in the fall of my child rearing where soon those days are going to be done and I'm going to be transitioning into what comes next for me beyond being dedicated 24/7 to being a parent. You don't ever stop being a parent, but things shift. Even with my two older children who are 21 and 24, I've shifted to a different season with them. And then other seasons of my world, well, um, caring for parents that are aging. And my beautiful parents are 81 and 84. Today's my dad's 84th birthday. And after this, I'm going to moved to celebrating with him and my family, which is awesome. But it's a different season of serving them and looking at like, how can I serve them in this phase of their life when they've given a lot to me throughout the other phases of my life. So it's curious. It's looking at how does each of those seasons look. So I want to first start with saying with talking about what are the characteristics of seasons. And let's just start with the springtime, because that's typically where we think of cycles starting, is beginning, life, springtime. It's a season of reinvention, a season of purpose and passion where you're like super excited. If you think about the springtime of a new relationship, it can be very exciting, very passionate. Or I think of my son Hunter. He just transferred to the University of Lincoln this fall. So he's kind of in the springtime of his experience at the university, where it's been some new things, it's been some adjustment, it's been figuring it out. And the springtime is also about getting committed to our new sense of vision. So what does that look like? What are our hopes? What are our desires for this period of our life? It's exploring, getting to know, getting to know that season. So as I'm shifting into the springtime of my business, I'm really getting to know that area, feeling into it, feeling like, okay, what does this new phase of my life look like? What does my time look like in it? What do the new people surrounding me look like in it? And there's some fear because there's energy. And it's not necessarily, instead of fear, maybe a better word would be anticipation. Anticipation of the unknown, and what does this space look like? And you're growing, you're stretching into a new phase. So the emotions that go with springtime are a lot of excitement, energy, hopes, dreams. Gosh, it can be a high season of commitment. When you think of the point between spring and summer, that point is really the point of commitment, where you're really dived into and energetically looking at this season of your life. So from the springtime, we move into summer. And summer is a time for growth. When I think about the agricultural cycles that are around me in the space where I live, the agricultural cycles are a lot about planting of seeds, planting of fields, new birth of animals, and all of those things are happening in the springtime. And as we're doing those things, especially like the planting of seeds, when you think about you're going out and planting, but at that point in time, you don't have any promise of growth, any promise of what those plants are going to look like. There's the hope and the vision of what they're going to look like. But here's another curious thought. We do know that if we're planting a corn seed, that there's a pretty good certainty that as long as we tend that and fertilize it and water it, a corn plant is going to grow. Now let's think about that in other areas of our life. What are you sowing and planting on a regular basis? If you're sowing and planting doubt, resentment, anger, bitterness, guess what the things that you're going to be reaping in the springtime or in the summer of your life? Those are the things that are going to be having energy, that are going to be growing and manifesting to a greater level. And I talk to some people and they wonder, like, why are these experiences happening to me? Like, why am I surrounded with people who are bitter or angry or causing me problems? And, you know, if you would go back and take a look at the seeds that you've been planting, you might get some insight onto why those things are happening. Now, instead, if you're putting out seeds of hope, of peace, of learning, of growing, you're planting seeds of healing, happiness, then those are also the things that are going to be growing in the summer of your life. So, summer is about bringing all of our experiences together, creating what success looks like for us in that season. It's about learning new strategies. It's about looking at, okay, are the things growing how we wanted them to? Are we getting the results that we want? And if not, what are the adjustments that we need to make to get that? And there's continued energy there because life is continuing to grow and develop. When you think about the cycles of a business, any business, when there's the new phase of the startup, and then there's the phase of growing and developing. I think of the company that I worked for, and I started with them in kind of their spring phase. They were just a new company, a couple years old when I started it. And then in the springtime, shifting into the summer, it was all about looking about how can we take care of our people in a different way? How can we take care and build the infrastructure that we need to build that will support the growth of this to the next level? So in the business world, those are some things that you're looking at in the summer of your business. It's culture. What's the culture that you're creating that's going to serve your people and your customers, your employees, your customers? What do you want to be known for? And so then between summer and fall, we have a point of balance. It's really a point of harmony, a point of energy where things are going things are going well. It's probably a relatively peaceful point in your life. And then you shift into the fall. And fall is a time where we see things come to maturity. We're experiencing the growth, the harvest, the profit of all of the work that we've done in the first two seasons of our life. Fall can be look like also using your gifts and talents where you're at to the best of your ability. For me in the fall of raising children, it's been rewarding to see them start to use some of the things that they've learned from me and carry them out into action in their own lives. Just yesterday, I had a phone call from my son Hunter, and he said, "Mom, I was driving down the road and I was right next to this car. I was in the other lane, but I was right behind him. And I just kind of heard this voice inside my head reminding me that you always told us to, for safety's sake, to stay, 5 to 6 seconds behind a car when you're going down the road." Now that's the safety part of me in the world where I was managing teams of safety and looking at not only how can you bring safety to your workplace, but also to everyday interactions. So that was one of the things I was passionate about teaching my kids. And so at that moment in time, he remembered that lesson and he started to allow some space to grow in between him and the car in front of him. And he no more had gained that space than a deer ran out and that car in front of him hit that deer. And because he was now back far enough, he was able to stay out of that that incident that happened with that car, not get involved, not have an accident himself because of it. So that was like a cool thing for me of going like, wow, it's the harvest of the seeds that I planted, and now they're growing into actions in his own life. So that's pretty cool. So there's a sense of completion and things wrapping up. Things are stable and consistent. And in the fall of your life, there also might be now a new sense developing that it's time to start looking at what comes next. And so, hey, I'd welcome Dean. Oh, Dean's here. I just saw that and he posted a little while ago. So thanks for being here, Dean. And in that fall season of your life, when you're kind of starting to look at, I feel like I have a sense of completion with what I'm doing here, and I'm getting curious now about what comes next. And this really happened for me in the business world. I really loved what I was doing. I enjoyed the people I was working with. I enjoyed the teams I was working with. But there was a sense of there's something more out there for me to be using my skills to the best of my ability. Yeah, so that was this new curiosity happening in that fall season. Now, with that can come also some energy of going like, okay, that new vision is opening up, but it lacks clarity of what's next. I'm in the fall of my child rearing. I'm also looking at, wow, what's next for me? I have some vision of what's next for me, but it's now looking at strategy of how I wind down this area of my life that I'm in this season to the best of my ability and prepare for the next season. And that's what we're going to talk about in just a moment, is about how can you do that gracefully? How can you do that with more speed and ease? Because changing of the seasons is not always graceful, and sometimes it can feel messy. Sometimes it can feel a lot of pain inside, as it's a time of inward introspection and looking deep. And that's kind of when we know we're shifting from the fall into the winter. The fall, that point of balance between the fall and the winter, is in between the dreams. So you're kind of wrapping up this one dream that you had, and you're looking now to the next dream. And that's not always good feeling. I think like when one relationship is winding down, that can be very painful. It can be a time of grief. It can be a time of loss. Or maybe I have some people in my network that have lost a spouse. That's a real period of grief and moving from a fall into a winter. Maybe you've like been suddenly plunged into winter. So winter is that time when maybe we really need a sense of healing, a time of renewal, restoration, allowing ourselves some space to recover from whatever has been happening in our life. It's a time that most people want to avoid. They would rather not be in the winter of a relationship, of a job, of any transition. And it's a very, very deep period of transition. It can be a time where we can either look inward to really our own inner guidance system to know and understand what comes next, or it's a time when we can risk getting stuck. Yeah, getting stuck. That's the danger in the winter of our lives, is getting stuck where we're focused on maybe the things that aren't going well, the things that haven't gone well, why did things happen the way they did? Or even, why am I not content with where I'm at? If you have a lot of great things going on for you, but yet you sense that there's something more, that can be a tough space to be in also if you let it, because it's a time of looking at like, okay, why am I not happy here? And if we're not careful, that can be turned into a place of judgment, of self-criticism. But really, what that discontent needs to do is drive us deeper into ourselves, to looking at, okay, what's this discontent telling me? What's it steering me to? And when we can face that head on, that's when we can really learn and see what the new opportunity of growth is. We can really start looking to say what else is out there and what else is possible. And the danger is getting stuck and looking at like nothing else is possible. This is a very closed, fixed perspective on that there are no other opportunities out there. How would I ever make anything else happen? That's the danger in the winter of your life. So, in the center of all those seasons is our own being, our own self and presence is sitting deeper behind the center. The, the real you that's watching all of this happen is the connecting point between all of your seasons. And the balance point between that winter season is when you really dig deep, you really allow whatever healing and growth needs to take place, you allow this new dream to really grow and take place and develop. And not only then does it develop, you're able to take action on it. And that is the point of renewal that then allows you to move into the next springtime. So, a coach brings people through all 4 seasons of their life with strategy. A coach helps them to say, what season are you in now? What do you really want to get from that season? And then how will you move through that? As you move through the seasons, what's important to you? And if you keep evolving on to the next season, you keep that personal growth going. And with experience, we can run through those seasons even in a quicker space. But I want to just talk to you heart to heart for a moment here, because I know there's a lot of you who experience these seasons as repeating cycles that have repeated maybe from generation to generation, or or maybe it's just something because of, hurts or trauma in your own life that you haven't been able to face. You get stuck in these repeating cycles. And when I think about that, I think of the person who has grown up with some trauma in their world that they've not been able to really deal with. And how that's manifesting is in cycles of addiction, where maybe somebody was addicted to alcohol and they've realized that that's not, a healthy space for them to be in. So they're able to make a change in their life to let go of picking up that drink, but they didn't do the inner work to look at like, what's the thing that I'm trying to avoid that's making me need to do that. And so then that cycle just now becomes, what's the next addiction? And I've seen cycles of addiction run from being people being just like immersed in a hobby, like that was their whole world, their whole life is they're immersed in a hobby. Or maybe that cycle is jumping from job to job to job to job. And maybe that job cycle looks like, you're happy and content with this job to start with. And then you start questioning like maybe people aren't valuing me, they're not treating me right, they're not respecting what I have to contribute. Or maybe they're even beyond that, they're now doing things that you feel like are making you unwelcome and making you uncomfortable in the environment, make you feel like maybe they're picking on you or doing hurtful things. And so then you begin to tell yourself, well, I'm not valued here. I'm not wanted here. They're picking on me. So I'm just going to go find another job. And then you do that. But that same cycle repeats. And maybe 5 jobs later, or maybe 10 jobs later, or 15 jobs later, you're still having that same experience. That same cycle can happen in relationships where we experience the same hurts, but with different faces and different people around us. Well, in the center of all that experiences is you. The one common factor is you. And the winters of our lives are painful, can be painful places to be if you are not willing to look deep inside your soul. And as I sat yesterday along the bank of the river near our house, and I looked out across the river and I saw all of the trees that are now, they've lost their leaves and they're in preparing for this winter. And it reminded me so much of all the people out there who are in the winter of their lives, where they're in this space of not even really being able to be aware of what's happening, but they're just only aware of these experiences that are pricking and causing pain in their soul. And as I sat there and watched, and the sunlight, shining down, but it's cold, it's chilly, and that sun is shining down. And I just made me realize that, when we're in the winter of our lives, we need someone to shine the light for us. Because inside each person, you have that light flickering inside of you, but sometimes it's dimmed so much that you can't see it. The experiences have been so painful in our lives that we can't see what's happening, what's next. And yeah, those are the people that I want to talk to, because when we can have a light shine in, a light of hope, a message that things don't have to be that way, that you can learn how to shift things so that you're not in these repetitive cycles. You can develop strategy. You can look at your life and say, okay, this is how it has been in the past, but I can change that with the actions and awarenesses. I can change. But sometimes it takes that light shining in, that light of hope, that light of renewal that connects, that light can burn into our world, into our soul, and be that little chip of light that now grows and gets brighter and brighter and helps us to see that we don't have to stay in that winter of our lives, that there is hope. So if you're in that space today of really feeling like you're in the winter of your life, but you're feeling stuck there, just know that that doesn't have to be you. You only stay stuck as long as you want to stay stuck. And you can grasp the lessons that are to be learned there as quickly as you want to grasp the lessons to move on to the next phase of your life. Okay, well, that's my conversation today. And yeah, I'm just curious. I want to know if you're with me live, go ahead and maybe pop a comment in. Want to grasp the lessons to move on to the next phase of your life. And yeah, go ahead, leave me a comment and let me know what has been important for you in this conversation today. If you're in the Zoom room, go ahead and leave a comment in the Zoom room. And if you know someone who's going through some cycles in their own life, feel free to share this conversation with them. And then feel free to reach out to me and share. My email, Vicki@tslimits.com, or you can send me a personal message through Facebook. Yeah, I would love to hear what's happening in the seasons of your life and how you might take this message and apply it to your own world. Okay, well, until next time, and next time is going to be at the poolside instead of the fireside. I will see you. Keep rising higher. Know that you can be stronger, go faster, rise higher, and live your one wild, wonderful life. Until next time.